And you know, it was a great inning. And I say that I came in with a strikeout, I went out with a strikeout. I came in being humbled, I went out being humbled. And I just think you learn so much by being humbled. In 1979, when I was called up, I actually kind of put myself in that position. I went down to Sparky and you know, got in his way a little bit, and he asked me what I wanted, and I looked out at Goose, and he said, "You want him?" And I said, "Yeah, I want him." Well, he promptly struck me out on 3 pitches. So I started against the best there was in the game, and later in my career, you know, Goose and I had some great confrontations, of which he won almost all of them except one.
And that was in 1984, the World Series, Padres-Tigers, where you seal the deal for Detroit.
Well, and you know, my personality and what I really played most for was to be a world champion. And you know, that was a moment in which Goose challenged me. He made a decision to go against his manager's wishes and not walk me. And you know, I got him when it counted, and that's what really mattered to me when I played the game. When I was standing in the on-deck circle and Goose Gossage wanted to pitch to me when his manager told him to walk me, was saying, I knew what he was doing. The Beast was saying, look he struck you out 13 out of 18 times. He's going to strike you out again. You're going to fail here. Well, I had to control that, and I had to visualize. I looked up in the seats. I looked at Sparky. I said, he's going to pitch to me, and that's where it's going. And, you know, I had to force myself to visualize that. I had no reason to, but I'm just a firm believer that if you can force yourself to visualize success, you have a much better chance of making that a reality. Success can make you a bad person also. So, I mean, it's just a thing that you have to endure, and it's a thing you have to identify, and it's the thing you have to dedicate yourself to ignoring so you can get on and realize your goals. Football was easier for me. I was big, I was fast, I was strong, I was mean.
Good catch.
And you know, I played against people who maybe weren't as physically talented at my position, and you know, I was just made for it. Baseball, on the other hand, was, you know, it's a game of failure. You have to teach yourself to fail all the time. You have to teach yourself to accept failing 7 out of 10 times. I'm just not made up for that. And I also played a game that I'd only played 1 year in college, and you know, I had raw ability, and I just basically knew that I was going to get thrust into in an environment where I was overmatched, but only, you know, through humility, became more determined to have an impact in the long run.
And Kirk Gibson saved his best performances for the moments that mattered most. We're up close talking with the former Tiger and the former Dodger. When we come back, we'll talk about that magical moment and about his book. The title, Bottom of the Ninth. Don't go away. The book, Bottom of the Ninth, the author Kirk Gibson, his life in and around the ballpark, but the foundation, this moment, Game 1 of the '88 World Series, Dodgers trailing 4-3 in the bottom of the ninth, 2 outs. And that moment voted the #1 sporting moment in Los Angeles history. We're up close with Kirk Gibson. When you see that, what's the first thing that comes to your mind?
Happiness for a lot of people. And the fact that I put myself in position again, you know, we talked about the Beast earlier, and you know, the Beast was telling me, you know, you've got a torn hamstring in your left leg, you've got a strained medial collateral ligament in your right leg, you're in total pain, nobody expects you to play. Just sit in here and don't put yourself in, you know, I had no business up there, really, physically. Dennis Eckersley, we knew he was going to be in the game. He was the best reliever in the game at the time. And, you know, I could have just sat back and said, you know, it would have been nothing. You know, I could have thought about putting myself up there and failing, but I just said, you know what, I've been there for those guys all year. This is the game I most cherish. This is the World Series. You know, I looked at who was left, you know, on our lineup card, and, you know, I summoned Tommy, and I said, hit Mike Davis 8th. I'm hitting for the pitcher.
Right, because in your book, Bottom of the Ninth, you said you called Tommy and he was shocked. He gave you a stare, like kind of a ghostly stare.
A quick one.
Yes, and you said you suggested pitch at Mike Davis that you're going to the bat rack, and you purposely stayed in the tunnel so that Eckersley or the A's wouldn't know.
He told me to stay in the tunnel. I mean, he went running off because he didn't want me to change my mind, but he stopped and said, you stay up here, because he didn't want Oakland to see that I might hit. He felt that they might pitch Davis a little more carefully, because the only guy he really had left was Dave Anderson, who Oakland probably didn't feel could hurt them.
with the long ball. Mike Davis ends up walking with 2 out. Obviously, the Dodgers go on to win the World Series. But tell me about the visualization, that how specific it got for you as you're waiting in the tunnel, you're in the on-deck circle. You almost envision the crowd cheering you on?
Well, I mean, the way the thing came off is exactly how I'd envisioned it for 9 innings. And, you know, I envisioned that when I walked out of the dugout that the crowd would go nuts and that I would feel no pain and that I would be ready to do battle with the best there is. And, you know, and besides that, we had a scouting report on Dennis that said that if he got to 3-2, he'd throw me the backdoor slider. And, you know, I got up there and I looked out at Dennis and he looked at me. You know, I was staring him down saying, bring it on. And he was looking me right in the eye saying about, you know, I got you kind of deal. And he had me 0-2 before, you know, 2 pitches, 0-2. And, you know, I immediately realized that I couldn't hit his fastball. And immediately realized that I just had to go what I call my emergency mode, and then realize that, you know, I got to get to 3-2 and I hope he throws me that backdoor slider. When I get to 3-2, I step out of it. As he starts his motion, I call timeout and I say, partner, as sure as you're standing here breathing, you're going to see that 3-2 backdoor slider. That's exactly what Mel Didier, our scout, had told me earlier. And I stepped back in. He threw the slider. It's an ugly swing. But I mean, it's just proof if you visualize success, it can become real.
It can happen. When you connected, did you know it? Did you feel it?
No, I knew it immediately, and you know, I don't know. I just consider myself such a team-oriented person, and a guy so motivated to become a world champion that they were, you know, I went up there and they were counting on me, and I came through for them. And there were many times in my career where I struggled, you know, really struggled, and you know, I took a lot of grief about it, and there were a lot of comments made about me, and you know, my parents, I said, you know, just keep your mouth shut, my day will come, and it came right there. All the people who stuck with me, and that was our reward.
And you thought about that going around the bases?
I certainly did. I certainly did.
Reggie Jackson told me on this show, Kirk, that the 3-homer game of the World Series made him. I mean, with all the other outstanding things he did. Did this moment make you?
My 2 World Series home runs, my 2 World Series rings, I don't think it made me, but it just signified that, you know, my goal was to become a world champion, and, you know, together as a team, we accomplished that. And that's the ultimate accomplishment. And you know, really, I don't know if people realize what it is to become a world champion. You don't really realize it till the next year when you don't do it. Then you go, wow. And I mean, it's the ultimate accomplishment. I mean, you're competing against people who got the same thing in mind, and so much has to go right, and you have to control your destiny and control the things you can control and overcome the things that you can't control. And it's just a great experience when you can go all the way, and it's a great experience when you can be an integral part of that.
And receiving the MVP award that year in the National League in '88 for, and not so much the numbers, but for that kind of team play that helped the Dodgers get to where they got. Lasorda called it the turning point for the Dodgers season when Jesse Orosco, if you could tell the story quickly, played the practical joke of putting grease in the hat. So if
Jesse Orosco put some eye black in my hat, and when I went out to warm up for our first spring training game, and I went out and ran, and I had a good lather going, I pulled my hat off, and eye black was running all over my face, and I just, the atmosphere was too loose for me prior to that, and I just took a stand, and I just told Tommy to go get the guy who did it. I was going to pinch his head off and make a statement, and you know, he said, well, and he calmed me down a little bit. I left, and the next day I said, Tommy, he said, let's just say that a personal emergency came up and that I excused you. And I said, Mr. Lasorda, are you done? And he said, yeah. I said, I won't do that. I want to talk to the team today. So we did, and I just let him know that, you know, I was here to be a world champion, and that all the screwing around stuff, I understand. Winning is fun to me. Being a world champion is fun to me. And I said, you know what? If all you guys want to come up here and kick my butt right now, I'll sacrifice. I'm going to show you. I'll do anything. I'm going to sacrifice for this team to become a world champion. And, you know, from that day on, you know, we kind of changed our attitude a little bit, and we really came together as a team. And we believed in ourselves. Our perception was that we could be world champions. There were many others that thought we were a 4th or 5th place team, but that's what it's all about. I mean, and what athletics teach you is that you can do the same thing in life. So, you know, and that's kind of where my book is based on, is what athletics has taught me. And, you know, you can carry that over in life. And I'm trying to inspire and motivate other people to realize that and be constructive and be very productive in what they do. And when I came out of Michigan State, 4 years later, Sparky labeled me the next Mickey Mantle. So I went in as a nobody, and that was a nice, easy ride. I came out as the next Mantle, which, you know, at the time I said, yeah, well, thanks for the compliment. You know, that's great. But, you know, in the end, I don't think that was, you know, what really made me go down the wrong road. And I talk about in my book in 1983, you know, I was on the wrong track as a professional athlete.
Yeah, you say you bottomed out as a player and a person, and you call '83 a pivotal year in your life. So you hated your life, thought about quitting.
I did, and I was miserable.
Why?
Just because you know, everything that I had envisioned, I wasn't on the ride. I mean, I say, you know, I was in the woods, and I looked at my compass. I thought I was going north, but I was going straight south. So, you know, in 1983, Sparky benched me opening day in Minnesota. And I went in his office, and I was ready to get him by the neck, okay? And he just looked at me, and he said, you know, you've got a few things that you have to come to grips with. And he said, you're going to sit right next to me until you understand that. And at the time, I thought it was him that was wrong. I thought it was the fans that were wrong, the owner that was wrong. But in the end, by the end of the year, because of what he did to me, I realized that I had to make changes in my life. And in 1983, in the off season, I went out and reflected, and I came back a new person.